Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. That does it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the program. Nice to have you here. It is Thursday. You know what I call it, Friday Eve. We're getting so close to the holidays. So it's like Christmas-ish Eve, so to speak. But people are still working. It's still busy. Prosecutors are still going through the house at 1122 King Road. What? Yes. I know. Weird. I think 3 times now it was supposed to be torn down, and then they postponed, and they're there? Last week the defense was there? What's going on? Are they really going to stick to this date next week to tear it down? And if so, why would they need to be there today? And that's not even the biggest news in Idaho today. The biggest news is this. We now are a heck of a lot closer to knowing when Bryan Kohberger is going to go to trial, because it's official. The prosecution has asked for this summer. They've asked for 6 weeks in the summer months. There's specific reasons why they've chosen the summer months. I'm going to lay it all out for you, tell you exactly what the prosecutors have asked the court. Why 6 weeks? Whether that includes death penalty phase, because you know when there's death penalty, there's 2 trials, right? There's the evidentiary phase, and if he's guilty, then there's the death penalty phase. And they take time, take witnesses, takes testimony and deliberations. So this summer, mark it in your calendar, book your ticket, or don't. And I have a reason for saying or don't, because there are all sorts of hinky things that can come in and mess with a trial date. And we don't have a date, we have a window. I'm going to get into that all in a moment. So then the next thing is, and it's court again, and it's Sean Williams. I thought we were going to have kind of a quiet week with Sean Williams locked up with the U.S. Marshals, and then he'd just show up today for his federal court appearance. But we got a new mugshot. I don't think things are going well for him in jail. He doesn't look good. Not that he has ever really looked good, but he's looked better than this. Maybe for good reason. Tried to kill himself, so they say, in a jail cell this week. Personally, I have my own opinion about what that was all about. I'll share that with you in a minute. And then he had to face the judge with, you know, a federal courthouse looming and a lot of bad stuff that he's being accused of. It's hard to keep track, but I've got the list. And I'm going to tell you what it was he had to face the judge on today. Starts with child, ends with porn. And that might be the least of the troubles against him. Can you believe I just said that? All right, so we're going to take you inside that courtroom. We got a view from the courtroom, correspondent who was right there, got a look at him in person. How are they securing him, by the way? This wily guy. 3 escape attempts now. How do they secure him when they're going from the van to the courthouse to back to the jail? I mean, he's escaped from the prison van before. So then I also, well, there are 2 ladies who we should probably say are probably going to spend Christmas behind bars. And I say that because they took someone else's Christmas, allegedly. Feast your eyes on these 2 Grinchettes. Here's the deal. It's funny except for the fact that it isn't, because they decided to allegedly steal all the holiday presents in someone's house, as well as all their other great stuff, while they were at a funeral, Grandma's funeral. And this is not a one-off, my friends. There is a long history of these felons doing this, targeting people who are grieving, and then just going shopping at the homes where they're at funerals. They've been caught before with stolen cars, cars filled with stolen goods, stolen cars filled with stolen goods. So I'm going to show you their pictures again as we get into the program, not right now. I'm going to tell you who they are, what their MO was this time, and you're going to hear from the woman who was targeted, who had all her stuff stolen, her holiday presents stolen. She's got a thing or 2 to tell these ladies. Let's start here, though. We still have a lot of unanswered questions in that Idaho quadruple murder case, but tonight, one of the biggest is a whole lot closer to being answered. It's a low-key kind of filing that came in just hours ago. The state asked the court that the trial of Bryan Kohberger begin and end this coming summer. The filing says the trial should, quote, last approximately 6 weeks, including, quote, the penalty phase, if there is one. And so why this summer? Perfectly good answer. to avoid times, they say, when Moscow high school and area universities are in session. Look at this map. You can see where the Latah County Courthouse is on the right. You can see the Moscow High School very close by, University of Idaho, not that much farther away. It says already, the motion reads, the significantly increased amount of media and other vehicles related to this case has strained available parking. There's also the question of lodging, which is often scarce when the University of Idaho is in session, and they are not in the summertime, for the most part. It does remain to be seen what the defense is going to have to say about this request. Again, this is the prosecutors asking the court, let's go, we're ready. Let's go to trial this summer. So I can't wait till the defense responds. There's Ann Taylor, smiling in different times. But you might remember that Bryan Kohberger waived his right to the speedy trial. And then since he did that, everything really just kind of came to a screeching halt. So how speedy is speedy? Is a year and a half speedy? Not speedy? Too long? I had a chance earlier today to run this by Richard Block. He is an Idaho defense attorney who has been following the case closely. So, Richard, give me your thoughts on this notice by the state that it assumes there could be a trial as early as this summer, 6 weeks long. What are the odds it's actually going to be this summer?
Well, from a defense point of view, I'd certainly be worried about this summer. That sounds real early to me. I would want as much time as I could. My guess is the state's probably going to be pretty ready this summer to go to trial. But the defense probably needs a little more time to gather all their evidence to get everything together. They might be ready. I'm obviously not on the defense team. I don't know exactly what's going on there. But a year and a half from the indictments here, or from the original criminal complaint here, would be pretty fast to go to trial. My guess is probably longer.
What does it say that the state is making the request? Does it indicate they're ready, they've got their ducks in a row, and should it make the defense nervous?
I don't know that it would make the defense nervous. The state's always ready first. The state's case is best on day one. The state can get to trial so much faster than the defense can because they've had all their investigators working on it for a long time. They're gathering evidence. And from a defense point of view, it's just so much harder to gather evidence after someone has been arrested. So it's not a surprise that the state would be ready first. Defense has just got a lot of work to do to catch up.
Scale of 1 to 10, the odds we're going to see a trial before the end of 2024.
I think there's a decent chance. I'd put that at a 50-50 at best.
Okay, Richard Block, thanks so much.
Thank you.
50-50 at best. That's interesting. On a related note, a closely related note, the now infamous Party House, where the murders took place, is due to meet the wrecking ball 1 week from today. University, they own the house, still not backing down from that date, despite the vocal objections of most of the victims' family members. Here is what Steve Gonsalves, who's the father of Kaylee Gonsalves, here's what he told us last week.
We're at a moment in the case that we don't even have a trial date. We've had a trial date for almost the vast majority once they had a suspect. So we don't have a trial date, but we have a date to have, largely the biggest piece of evidence being destroyed, which just seems backwards,
We have a window, a request for a trial window, but he's right, we don't have a date yet. And since the announcement of the demolition date, 28th of December, both the defense and the prosecution have asked for additional access to 1122 King Road, despite the fact that both of them signed off on the teardown months ago. The defense spent parts of last Thursday and Friday there, and then today, the prosecution showed up. What's that? I want to bring in Lauren Matthias now. She's the host of the very popular Hidden True Crime podcast, and she's been covering the case since the beginning. Let's talk about the scheduling of the trial first, because that was a big wow, a shocker. I didn't expect that to come in today. So they're proposing this summer, but they've got a few other asks as well. Lay that out for me.
Yeah, they're asking, as you mentioned, for the deadline for the trial dates, right? And they're also giving us a hint that it'll be early in the summer if this actually happens because they want school out of session. They're also asking for deadline for the jury questionnaire. They're asking a deadline for jury instructions. They're asking a deadline for discovery from both the defense and the prosecution. And this is just the beginning. they're not only asking for a trial date, they're asking for every other thing needed for a trial to happen this summer.
Man, they sound like they're so ready. I mean, I'm surprised. Again, you heard Richard Block talk about it, right? A year and a half is lightning fast for a murder trial, let alone a quadruple murder trial. And he said he gives it a 50-50 shot at actually being able to go ahead on that day. We all know how it works. So, Judge, we need a continuance. Judge, we're not ready. Judge, we need a delay, you know. But let's talk about the prosecution showing up at the House today. You know, this was supposed to be planned months and months ago, that House would already be in detritus, right? So what were they doing? Do we have any idea?
I don't think this is soothing any minds that they were there 7 days before demolition is supposed to happen. We don't have any idea what they were doing because there's a gag order. So we can't hear what the prosecution was doing there. We can only sit here and speculate and wonder, what in the world would the prosecution want to do 7 days before the biggest piece of evidence, the crime scene, is demolished? And it's not really, I think, soothing minds of people invested in this case and concerned about this case going to trial without this piece of evidence. They haven't asked, the prosecution hasn't asked to retain the House, so why do they need to go there again and again and this soon, just before it's supposed to be demolished?
I'm just shocked. I mean, again, like this time, well, maybe like January of last year, we were talking about how they had planned to bring the House down when the semester came to an end, and then again in the summer, and now again. So it's disturbing to me that there's something compelling enough inside that House that the prosecution would need to come back. It should be leveled if they had their way early on in this story. Okay, what about the online community? I'm getting the sense that, and it's not as though they have any, influence here, but there are a lot of people who care a lot about these families, about this case, and about the prosecution. What's the online community suggesting in terms of their frustration with the demolition date?
There's a lot being voiced online, and you're right, so many people care about this case and care about justice for these victims. One thing that we're hearing from a few people is some people saying, well, could we protest? Could we block the streets on December 28th? I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's how far some people are going and talking online right now, is could there be a protest formed in 7 days?
Listen, it's not pie in the sky. I remember watching the Gabby Petito case play out, story. I didn't become a case, but the story play. And there were people from all over the country that got on airplanes to come down to the laundry's front yard. So, this is the kind of thing where passions run high and people are sad and frustrated, many in, solidarity with the family. So I can understand why that chatter is there, and I would understand if it happened. I could understand that we shouldn't count that out. Lauren Matthias, always good to see you. Thanks for doing this tonight.
Thanks, Ashley.
Hidden True Crime Podcast. It's a good one. Check it out. Now, if all parties are actually fine with the House coming down in just a week, then why the final walkthrough? Why would the prosecution be there today? For that, I turn to a very smart prosecutor, Dave Ehrenberg. He's the state attorney for Palm Beach County in Florida. He's former assistant attorney general. What could be left, Dave? What could possibly be left for them to look at to compel an actual on-site visit today, a week before the wrecking ball?
Ashley, as your last guest correctly noted, because of the gag order, we don't know. And as a prosecutor, I could only guess that perhaps they need one more look at the angles, the models that were created, taking more photographs. But you would think that would have been done by now, especially because the demolition is occurring in a week. And so I think that prosecutors need to be careful that they've already agreed to this demolition, and it could only come back to haunt them. I mean, because it's up to the defense to poke holes in the prosecution's case. And if they come up with some new theory the prosecution was not aware of, and the prosecution can't go back to the House and disprove it, oh boy, that could be reasonable doubt. So I hope the prosecution has an airtight case, that they've got enough with DNA and other evidence that they don't need this House, but I just think that it's better that they keep it.
Part of me wants to ask if it was just a show. Prosecutors showing up for the sake of the media to see that they're crossing their last T's and dotting their last I's. But then the other part of me thinks, well, then they get excoriated for showing up at a place they thought 3 times ago wasn't needed.
Prosecutors are busy, Ashley. They're not going to do something for show. They're not doing this for the cameras. They're doing this because it provides some important evidence, or at least crosses that T and dots the I, because they're going to trial. They say they're ready for trial. And this is because they just want to make sure that they've got everything they need before it is torn down. And look, it's a good case. I don't think they necessarily need the House, but I think it's always better if you're a prosecutor when you've got the entire burden of proof that the House is there just in case. So I hope it goes well for them. I think they're going to win this case regardless, but I think they should keep the House. One thing about this, Ashley, is that I anticipate that the university, which is a very powerful player in town, has probably leaned on the players involved to say, we really want this gone. Do whatever you can to get rid of this house of horrors. And so it lit a fire perhaps under the prosecution.
Yeah, it could be. Can I ask you about the trial date? I mean, look, I didn't expect to see the filing just poof. They always throw things at you right during the holidays or before the holidays when they think more people are busy with shopping. But in came the filing just a few hours ago saying, court, we are asking for 6 weeks this summer when the university students aren't there and when the high school students aren't there. But that's, as you heard Richard Block, that's about 18 months, 19 months or so from the actual murder. Well, no, from the arrest. That's lightning warp speed to me, especially on a quadruple murder trial. What are your thoughts about the possibility we could see a Bryan Kohberger trial this summer?
I think it's possible, especially because the parties were ready to go a couple months ago. And then it was the defense that said, all right, hold on, we're actually not ready now, and let's take back our request for speedy trial. So I think the fact that they were going to go just a couple months ago shows you that if this occurs in the summertime, I think they'll be ready. Now, if the defense comes back and says, Your Honor, we need more time, the judge usually gives a lot of deference to the defense. They want to make sure they get their Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial. So as I like to say, the tie goes to the defendant and they will postpone it. But I do believe this trial will occur sometime next year, hopefully in that summertime, because, as you correctly said, that's when school is out. And there's a logistical issue if you've got high school and college in while the trial is occurring at the same time.
Well, plenty of cities have plenty of things going on, like Orlando and Disney World and all the rest, and they can still hold big trials that are media spectacles. I'm looking at you, Casey Anthony. But I do want to ask you about the speedy aspect. How long does Bryan Kohberger have in his waiving of the speedy aspect? Like, how long is too long? How many continuances? How many delays? How long can he actually hold out before the judge finally says, Ms. Taylor, your client and you will be in court on X date?
It's up to the judge, and the prosecutors can weigh in. But, the public and the victims' families, they all have a right to a speedy trial, too. It's not as guaranteed in the Constitution as the defendant's right in the Sixth Amendment, but there is an interest to have a fast trial, not to delay this anymore. You don't want the victims' families to be victimized yet again.
You also don't want memories to fade. And I struggle with what I had for breakfast. And when you're talking about 2, 3, 4 years, that starts to get tricky for memories and then finding certain witnesses, et cetera. So I can see how justice delayed is slightly justice denied, but I also understand the speedy trial. You're so smart. It's why we call you. Dave Ehrenberg, thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Have a great night.
And a great holiday season, too. Always love having Dave on with us. Coming up in just a moment, they are like the thieves from Home Alone, only they are real and they are way more disgusting, helping themselves to holiday presents and valuables while a family was at Grandma's funeral. Meet the 2 latest Lady Grinches and hear what their victim has to say about them, because she is live with me next. Who stole Christmas presents from a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old right out from under the family's Christmas tree. And you may have thought that when it comes to stealing, well, we really hit the bottom of the barrel with that one. Lowest of the low. I know that's what I thought, but turned out I was wrong. That's because I didn't know about what happened in Houston. Karen Papantakis. Oh, this is a tough one. Karen Papantakis. I think I got it. Karen Papantakis. She was out with her 2 kids when they got an alert from their home surveillance system. And they opened the app to see this, watching in real time as 2 women helped themselves to the family's belongings, carried them out of the house, loaded them into the car. By the way, this was no petty theft. These crooks made off with $50,000 worth of stuff. Everything from jewelry to silver. Even the kids' school backpacks were stolen. Oh, and the holiday presents at the house. The timestamps on the video show that the thieves were in the house more than 30 minutes, which coincidentally is the same amount of time that Karen and her kids had been, brace yourself, at Karen's mother's funeral. That's right. They were at Grandma's funeral. The family was burglarized during the holidays while attending Grandma's funeral. The thieves were long gone when the police arrived, but a couple days later, those AirPods that the thieves decided to steal belonged to the kids, and they were tracked to an apartment. And wouldn't you know it, that's where police found the 2 suspects. And, shockingly, some of the stolen goods. Tonight, 31-year-old Adrian Hart and 29-year-old Sage Grider, in their most proud moments, being shown on television like this, charged with burglary. And maybe it's not surprising either, with this level of callousness, that Adrian and Sage have done this before. In 2020, they were caught with a car that they had stolen while that owner was also at a funeral. But it was his own funeral. Hart and Grider stole a dead man's car, and when the cops found it, it was filled to the brim with other stolen things. And it also had in it a list with names of people who died and their relatives. You see the strategy here? Adrian and Sage appeared in court on Monday, and because they were still on probation from that last crime spree, their bail was set at $105,000 each. Their trials are going to start in the new year. In the meantime, the woman whose holiday cheer was pilfered during the funeral, she and the kids are now trying to redeck their halls, so to speak. Karen Papantakis joins me now live. Karen, that is a tricky last name, but I think I got it right the second or third time. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad they caught these particular people. But how did you explain this to your kids right at the holiday season?
Oh, well, to be honest, the loss of my mother was really kind of overtaking and overshadowing the fact that it was the holidays. So we still are so heartbroken. It's been barely a week since her funeral. So I think we hadn't even really wrapped our minds around the fact that, the holidays were even coming up. It was the first day of Hanukkah when she passed, and we celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas. So we were in the holidays as far as that goes. So
I'm so sorry, and my condolences go to you and your kids, your family, that you've had to go through all of this. First of all, the loss of your mom, and then this insult upon that injury. Was there any solace in the fact that they caught them and I assume got some of your stuff back? Did they get much of your stuff back?
Yes. That does help. It definitely made us feel better a little bit. But ironically, when we got some of the stuff back, for me, it's just still sitting in the corner. I don't even want to touch it. So it's just weird. But yes, they stole over $50,000 worth of things. Just like you mentioned, everything from, jewelry and silver and electronics, presents. And then even they ransacked my children's rooms, and they even took a handful of stuff out of my son's drawer that had school pictures and pictures of him with family and handmade cards that his sister had made him. When they caught them very quickly, the police acted very quickly. We were so grateful for that. That made us feel better knowing that they were in jail. It was just 2 days later that they were in jail. But when we got a lot of the stuff back, it was just, we didn't even realize half the stuff, that had been taken. We're still realizing, still figuring out what's been stolen. We don't have a full handle on everything. They say it'll probably be months that we're still figuring things out of things that were stolen. But we did recover.
My family went through it too. I hear you. You don't know what you don't know until you all of a sudden find out, and sometimes it's months later, right? And it's just that aggravation just keeps coming back to haunt you. You actually went to court, and you got a firsthand look at them. I want you to take me to that experience.
Yes. Well, so I'm also a lawyer, and so I understand the importance of the complainant or the victim being in court and being present for all of these proceedings, and I plan to be at all of them. I know that it's really important. When I honestly didn't know how I'd feel, but when I saw them, I got emotional. It really just brought me back to that day, which was my mother's funeral. And it hadn't even, at the time of the court date, it hadn't even been a week. I still, to this day, haven't had a chance to mourn the loss of my mother since the funeral service, because I've been dealing with this. I had detectives at my house today. I had police officers at my house yesterday. This has been a constant thing that, that I've been having to now deal with. It's a lot. So it brought me back to that day and the loss of my mother.
Yeah. People don't realize, unless you've been robbed before and burgled like this, burglarized, that the violation is even more chilling than the stuff that you lose, and particularly around the holidays, and the fact that they took advantage of your mom's funeral and clearly knew it. It wasn't happenstance. This was an MO that they had been using before. So it's, I just want to let our viewers know that you started a foundation after your late mom. It's called the Malsman Pursley Foundation, aka Grandma Bonnie's Angels, and it matches grieving families with people who will house sit for them during services. So you know what? You win. You're awesome. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being on tonight. Really appreciate it, Karen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Papa Tanakis. I did it. I had to get it another time in because that's a tricky one, but I definitely needed to do that. Okay, so this next story, pretty chilling stuff. We knew that something terrible happened in Jeremy Best's home because the 911 call was terrifying. And when the police got there, his wife and his unborn child were dead and Jeremy was gone. So was the 10-month-old baby named Zeke. Well, now we know what happened to that little baby. But if a mental instability is a factor in this crime, will it also be Jeremy's defense? That's coming up next. We have some grim developments and some grisly new details in a murder case out of Idaho. And before you say which murder case out of Idaho, it is the latest one. The latest one to get nationwide attention, anyway. We reported on the killing of Callie Randall Best earlier this month. She was 7 months pregnant, and her last known words were recorded on a 911 call that was cut off before she could actually ask for help. A voice that is presumed to be Callie's is heard yelling, "Jeremy, no!" After which a male voice says, "Get the F back, you're going to get shot." And then the male voice says, "I love you, I love you, I love you." Jeremy is presumed to be Jeremy Best, husband of Callie and father of their unborn child, as well as father of their 10-month-old son named Zeke. By the time the police arrived on the scene, Jeremy and baby Zeke were gone. Callie and her unborn baby were dead. But 2 days later, Jeremy and baby Zeke were found. As we reported at the time, Jeremy was naked in a sleeping bag on the side of a highway, 60 miles from their home. Baby Zeke was nearby. He was dead near his father's SUV. And now, weeks later, Jeremy Best has been indicted on 1 count of first-degree murder for each of these 3 victims: his wife, his son, and the child that his wife was carrying. Again, 7 months pregnant. It has also been revealed that while Callie had been shot to death, whoever it was that killed Zeke had slit the toddler's throat. And police say it was his own father. Jeremy Best is currently undergoing a mental competency check. Not only was he naked when he was found in that sleeping bag, but just 12 hours before that 911 call came in, he'd been seen walking naked through the Swan Valley General Store in town. And police did respond to that, and they did take him in, and he was evaluated at a hospital, but he was released. 12 hours later, we know what happened. In some states, just about everything I said would really lay out a strong foundation for an insanity defense. But in Idaho, not so much. Earlier today, I spoke with Richard Block, an Idaho criminal defense attorney. Take a look. Richard, why is Idaho any different?
Idaho's a little different because in Idaho, we don't allow the insanity defense. Idaho is one of only a handful of states where you have no insanity defense. That doesn't mean a mental state isn't important. A mental state can affect whether or not you have the requisite intent for a crime, but there's no just straight insanity defense in Idaho.
So does Idaho look at more of a diminished capacity, meaning there's something wrong here? We're not going to give you a full pass, but there's definitely something wrong that doesn't make him your typical murder defendant.
No. In terms of the case itself and the facts of the case, Idaho says that in order to not have mental health be a defense to the crime, it has to be so severe that you couldn't form the intent. In fact, there's a famous case out of Idaho where some guy literally thought aliens were coming down from the sky and he attacked them. And so he didn't have the intent to harm the humans that he actually harmed. He thought he was attacking aliens.
So to be clear, if you're going to raise those issues at trial, it's not like you're going to get a not guilty, but it could affect the kind of sentence you get or where you serve that sentence?
100%, and that's really an important part. Whenever a client has really severe mental health issues, which seem to be a factor here, you are looking at this from a mitigation case standpoint. You want to make sure that you've explored every little avenue of that. What's wrong with him? You get a forensic psychologist involved, maybe two. And the question that you're asking yourself is this, did this have an effect on him? Did this have an effect on his decision to do the crime? And that goes a lot into sentencing. It's really important, especially here we've got 3 first-degree murder charges, so the death penalty is something that could be on the table, and it's really important in all those aspects about minimizing the punishment or making a difference in where this person would serve their time, whether in a mental health facility or in a prison.
It's so hard seeing these pictures of them and in better days, those lovely wedding pictures, and knowing what Callie must have gone through at 7 months pregnant with her little boy Zeke right there. Richard Block, thank you as always. So good to have you. Do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And coming up, major new developments in the case of a suspected serial rapist and alleged child pornographer and drug trafficker in Tennessee. By the way, these are all the same person. You have heard the name Sean Williams before, and no, this time it's not about escape. He tried that, but it didn't work. No, he didn't try to escape this time. He did try suicide. That didn't work either. But today, Williams faced a federal judge. And the news for him, not good. Again, full details next. Sean Williams is in jail tonight, and he is very much alive. And I have to say that because this guy is pretty prone to escaping if you turn your back on him. He also tried to kill himself in his jail cell this week, supposedly. Because I have my doubts about that too. The way I see it, a visit to the hospital is an easy way to attempt escape number 3. But here's a refresher. He is Sean Williams, the accused and suspected fella who, well, listen, there's too many crimes for me to list, but child porn and escape and drugs and at least 52 rapes of unconscious women on tape, all of that is on his horizon. Here is the most recent glamour shot that we got from him. This is from 2 days ago, and he can add this one to a growing collection of mugshots. Today he made his appearance in a federal courtroom. It was in Tennessee. Got himself a brand new lawyer and found out when his trial is going to start on just some of the child porn charges. Don't you hate that? When it's just some of them and you got to wait to know when you're going to be charged on the rest of them? You should know that at least one of the charges involves victims under the age of 12. So that's not an accident or a mistake. I didn't know how old she was. So he's also facing, court action at the state level too. Aggravated child rape and aggravated sexual battery of a child. And that carries life no parole. I want to get Jeff Keeling in here. He is with our affiliate WJHL News Channel 11 in Eastern Tennessee, and he was in that federal courtroom today, and he saw Sean Williams face to face. Jeff, it's good to have you on the show. Thanks for doing this. We don't get cameras in federal courtrooms. It's irks me beyond much else, but you got a chance to see everything. Can you take me there and tell me what happened, what you saw?
Sure. Thanks, Ashley. Yes, he walked in under his own power, did not look terribly worse for the wear from his effort the other day. He had a bandage on his neck, and other than that, looked pretty much like the normal Sean.
Ah, the bandage on his neck. Thank you. It was a detail I did not know about because we were told he had to be rushed to the hospital for a suicide attempt. Should we presume the bandage was the suicide attempt? And if so, how bad was it? How big was it? Did it look real or did it look like a phony attempt to get a trip to an easy-to-escape hospital?
Can't really make that judgment. The marshal said that he was that they were lucky that they saw him as quickly as they did. So, I'm not going to make a call on that one, but he certainly looked like he was feeling all right today.
Yeah, this is the picture we got when he was arrested several weeks ago after being out on the run 34 days, I think it was, and the canine had to ferret him out from, I think, underneath a car near a 7-Eleven where he was spotted. So he's having some trouble keeping a defense attorney. I think he's now, at a count of about 3?
That's right. He kept his first one for about a month. I think it was his choice on that one. And then the gentleman today, that was what he was supposed to be there for on October 18th, was the motion by his attorney to withdraw from his case. That finally got heard today. Took all of about 2 minutes of the judge in the courtroom with the attorney and us coming back in, and she granted that request. So now he's got number 3.
I'm sort of squinting at the mugshot there that's between us, trying to find the Band-Aid, but I think the mugshot was taken maybe right before the so-called suicide attempt, so it's not. I would not be able to see the position of it where you saw it in this particular picture, would I?
No, that's right. He got booked in, and within a couple of hours, apparently, he made this attempt. I figured that was it for Thursday's hearing, but he made a rapid recovery, so they were able to get him there patched up, and he spoke to the judge and got his new attorney, and you're right, he's got a whole lot in front of him.
Oh, I mean, it's too much to list, but they're foul charges, just despicable stuff. So can you tell me about the level of security? When we were covering Caitlin Armstrong in Texas, we noticed there were like 5 or 6 extra deputies that surrounded her in the courtroom, which I thought was, almost vaudeville because, escaping from a courtroom's hard. It's been done, but it's hard. What about this guy? 3 escape attempts. He's clearly clever enough to be out on the run 34 days and get out of a prison van with 2 guards in it, a transit van, small transit van. What did the security look like for this visit to the federal courthouse today?
Well, they are no longer using the contracted jails to take him now to the courthouse. The marshals are doing that themselves. And we saw 2 SUVs with a sedan in the middle of them pull up and into the Sally Port today when they brought him there. So the marshal has told us we're handling all transport now. There were lots of marshals in the courthouse, and he clearly has a motive to want to get back out, because we did some math yesterday, and you're right, it's a lot of charges, and just on the sex charges he is facing right now, if they were all served consecutively, he's found guilty on all of them, he's looking at 890 years, plus, as you said, that life without parole for the one. That's a lot of time.
I mean, give or take, right? 890 years life with life without parole, give or take. Jeff Keeling, thank you. I mean, I love it when I can get a firsthand account like this of what happens in a courtroom when the federal courts won't let us see that transparency for ourselves. So will you come back again on the show?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Jeff Keeling. Okay, so remember that name, WJHL News Channel 11 in Eastern Tennessee. It's going to be a regular. So we are still 4 days away from Christmas. Have you finished all your shopping? Because if you haven't, have I got a deal for you. Both Beyonce and Kim Kardashian are crazy about this thing, and for good reason. It's a limited edition. There are only about 20 of them in the entire United States, and if you act now, you can get it at a good discount. Pour yourself a drink because I'm going to solve this riddle in 4 minutes. Since we're a true crime show and it's Christmas, you'd better believe that my gift idea is a steal. See what I did there? Here it is. It's Kanye West's house in Malibu. It is on the market, and the price has come way, way down, relatively speaking. You can snap it up tonight for a mere $53 million. I realize that that is a ridiculous amount, but it is over $1 million less than Kanye paid for it in 2021, and it's $22 million less than the asking price in 2020. So why the discount? Well, feast your eyes on the thing in the middle. Yes, the housing market might be softening and interest rates are up. And to be honest, the place, it's a real fixer-upper. Because after West bought it, he gutted it entirely. He was hoping to renovate it, but he never did. So now it is literally a giant concrete box. Even the windows are missing. It's just that. It's just stairs with no glass there. The neighbors say it's an eyesore. And they hope somebody buys it soon. And to that end, West has hired the realtor from TV's Selling Sunset, who's been playing up the property's good points. It's world-famous Japanese architect, for one, who's designed only about 20 houses in the entire USA. This house is 4,000 square feet. It also comes with a beautiful shared beach. So act fast. The operators are standing by. And speaking of Christmas deals, we are holding a special holiday online contest to pick the most popular fictional Christmas crook. Is it the Grinch or Alan Rickman in Die Hard, or is it someone else? You can vote on all of my socials, on Insta, on Facebook, and on Twitter, that now I have to say is X. All of them are either at Ashley Banfield or TV Ashley, spelled Leigh. You can vote right up until just before tomorrow's show, when I will announce the winner. And you can be a part, you can make history. How about that? Right before the holiday. Make holiday history. Hey, thanks for making history with us tonight. It's been great to have you. I'll see you tomorrow. Cuomo's next.
All right, everybody, I'm Chris Cuomo. It's Thursday. We're live. We got breaking news on our watch, so let's get after it. Breaking just minutes ago, former President Donald Trump caught on tape a recorded call pressuring canvassers in Wayne County, Michigan, to not sign the certification of the 2020 presidential vote, which would have declared Joe Biden the winner.